Architecture is one way in influencing the minds and the hearts of people throughout the world. For me personally, I believe that music is a means of supplementing the inspiration for me to design and for me to think about people and how space can influence artists. You know, one of the main reasons why I decided to study in India is because of the deep-rooted ancient history of Indian classical design, which is deeply rooted in the Vedic science. Vastu, or Vedic science, is an integral part and the essence of how architecture can progress through all kinds of societies. I think my personal understanding of Vastu is that it has to be practical. It has to serve human beings because that's the purpose that it had.
REVA University presents REVA Podcast.
Welcome to REVA Podcast Series. This is Kushi Rai from School of Architecture. I will be interviewing architect Kerolin Govender all the way from South Africa. And he is an architect who is a proprietor also of Jeevan Architects in South Africa. So come, let's see him, meet him, and get to know more about him and his work. And we'll take it as we go. Yes? First one's first, what's your take on architecture in general?
For me, architecture is one way in influencing the minds and the hearts of people throughout the world. So that's what I always look at it as the emotional side because that's what fuels everything else.
Yes.
So yeah, architecture allows for people to change.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do you think your music background does to all of this? You think it's got an influence on architecture per se, or are they two separate things?
They are interrelated.
Right.
I think, and for any arts for that matter, they are so strongly connected that it's hard to look at them as separate entities. And for me personally, I believe that music is a means of supplementing the inspiration for me to design and for me to think about people and how space can influence artists.
Right.
And people, general people, Yeah.
And when you say music and architecture is related, how do you think that you can plug in, Vastu Shastra and all of this, since you have, done a course in it as well? So how do you think Vastu Shastra sort of plugs in music and architecture together?
One of the main reasons why I decided to study in India is because of the deep-rooted ancient history of Indian classical design, which is deeply rooted in the Vedic science. And even if you go to temples that use the science even today, hundreds and probably even some temples, thousands of years, these temples still have and serve the impact that it was initially designed to do. And for me, it's about the harmony of the human being, the built environment, and a combination of spirituality and science. So this is like a wholesome journey. And Vastu, or Vedic science, is an integral part and the essence of how architecture can progress through all kinds of societies.
But somewhere, don't you think that Vastu Shastra has been taken too far? Can you give us a little background on basics of Vastu Shastra and how is it that people today can adapt to it, but without having to really take it too far out?
I think my personal understanding of Vastu is that it has to be practical. It has to serve human beings because that's the purpose that it had, was to optimize the potential of human beings. How can we amplify and maximize the potential of each individual through built environment? And for me, it was like, temples are like, I would say, your charging points. You need your battery to be charged so that you can do the work that you do on your daily basis. So these buildings are like energy centers that allow for you as a human being to recharge. So when principles like Vastu principles are incorporated in industries or in corporate places, it amplifies the purpose and the activities that are supposed to be done in those spaces. I feel like literally you could say it's a battery center.
Could you pick up a space for us? So let's say, a kitchen.
Yeah.
Could you give us some basic insights on Vastu, let's say, for a kitchen? I mean, what is the direction that the fire need to be at and why? Any one element that you can pick and elaborate for us?
Okay, I'm going to talk about it generally, right?
Right.
I'm not going to do in specifics, but
Yes.
the whole aspect of having a kitchen and making sure that it is in the right place and right direction is because we as human beings thrive on the sun's energy and consumption of food. So when we design, in particular, it's where energy is, like when I talk about sun's energy, is amplified in that space. Because when food is prepared and then consumed, that we are served in a proper sense, that it kind of allows for us as individuals to get the full experience of what food is supposed to have as an impact on ourselves. And yeah, that's, I think, one way that I could explain it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for us as Indians, we really don't stress that much on what we see on a daily basis. But from your talk today, I kind of noticed that you really have magnifying glasses when you're looking at stuff that we do on a daily basis. That could probably be because of your South African Indian heritage. How do you think that a blend of both of these worlds have enhanced your life? One as an architect and two as an independent person.
I think for me personally, it was the self-discovery,
Yes.
understanding who I am, and then through understanding other cultures, it allowed for me that space to actually inquire my own personal journey. So, and I realized that everyone is on that journey. Everyone wants to know who they are, what is their purpose on earth, and how can they contribute to society through their careers and their life in general. So for me, the coming together of cultures allows for an individual to actually learn a lot about themselves.
And how are things in terms of architecture? Now that you've studied here in India, you live in South
Yes.
Africa most of the time. How do you think that architecture is perceived here and in South Africa? Are they similar? Are they different?
I think throughout the world, it's very much similar. We have to understand that as architects, we need to become a lot more empathetic and sensitive when it comes to design and creating or making spaces and places. We need to understand people and human beings. So we move from profit-driven architecture to more purposeful architecture. And this is, I think, an important part for everywhere in the world. But being in Bangalore, I've seen from me being here the last, I think it was in 2017, and now in 2025, this city is really booming. And it's amazing to see how the city has flourished over a short space of time. And I hope that it serves the people to the max and helps the community.
But do you think in general architecture as a profession, now be it South Africa or India,
Yeah.
do you think it is going the right way? Because there's a different story that we could tell as well, as professors sitting here on the other side. But do you think that architecture is going uphill or is it going downhill now? Because there are a lot of other fields that have also come in today.
Yeah.
So unless you're passionate about architecture, it's difficult to stay invested for, let's say, 5 long years.
Yes.
So times were different when we were studying, but things are different now. So
Yeah.
where do you think architecture as a profession is sort of moving today?
Yeah. I believe that architecture is such a broad spectrum. I know many of my batchmates, including myself, have diversified
Right.
from architecture. So I do believe the career as an architecture allows for you to expand and broaden your thinking. So it allows for you to tap into other industries. it's all so interrelated that it's not entirely just about built environment, but it's about everything that contributes to built environment. Architects are change makers and visionaries, so every field along any spectrum is rooted in architecture.
Yeah, like you rightly said, I think architects are artists, just camouflaging themselves as architects,
100%.
There are a lot of times when your artistic flair doesn't necessarily have to come out
Yeah.
through architecture. It can come out through,
Other
let's say, in
mediums.
your case,
Yes.
there's music,
Yeah.
and a couple of us, maybe it's art and dance and singing. So at some point, do you think architecture and art as a profession is going to really merge? We're going to have courses that is going to entail both art and architecture,
Yeah.
because at this point we don't have that. There are
No.
two separate courses. So do you think that there is a better future if architects and artists get together collaboratively to come up with a course that people can take?
100%. I believe that art
Yes.
has always been there.
Mm-hmm.
It has always been a part of everyone's lives, but we don't give it as much importance that it should get.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that if we are more progressive in terms of allowing art to kind of inspire us, we may actually move progressively towards a journey that may serve everyone in a much better way.
Also, let's take a look at South African culture.
Yes.
From where I stand, there's a lot of similarities, between South African cultures and Indian culture. Could you just tell us a few common things that you notice, let's say as an
Yeah.
architect, from the lens of an architect, your day-to-day life there and
Yeah.
your day-to-day life here, since you come from both communities.
Yes.
Could you just tell us what your day-to-day life looks like as an architect in South Africa?
So there are a lot of similarities in terms of how we interact with people, greetings, the levels of importance. Some cultures don't have the same kind of levels of importance when you kind of interact with people, but also the traditions.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we have different traditions, but there are similarities in terms of that as well. The music, for me personally, I found that the music was one way for me to kind of merge a unique sound, African Indian music, and I found a lot of similarities in kind of how we express and explore music. So yes, we do have a lot of similarities in that regard.
And how do you perceive, architecture in India as of now? Where do you think that's heading?
India, compared to other parts of the world, I feel is so advanced.
You think so?
I do.
And
I
how
do.
is that so?
I do believe that, like in India, I feel like when there's new, unique ideas, that it's being actioned rather than the fear of not wanting to explore new creative ideas. And you do find that a lot of the Western cultures and countries are looking to the East because of its deep-rooted connection to its culture.
I think at some point,
Yeah.
You will come back to your roots, and I think India is progressing in a backward direction now. We are going
Yes.
closer and closer to what we really are.
100%.
And we see that happening as well.
Yes.
So if you really have to compare the East to the West, there's a stark difference, but then people are slowly moving towards us more than us moving towards them. Yes.
I've always been a person that advocates the fact that the East has always been true to itself.
Mm-hmm.
People in the West are coming to the country to learn about things like Ayurveda, yoga, right?
Right.
We have an International Yoga Day. So
Yes.
in some countries, yoga is being taught as a fashionable thing,
Yeah.
but it's deeply rooted in a science, right?
Yes.
Science to optimize the human potential through your energy levels in your body. And these are things like, I mean, even food, culture, sound, music. Music is, classical arts are so deeply rooted, and even architecture. And now you're seeing the influences of both the East and the West in this country, which is being merged beautifully.
Yes.
Cities are now going back and looking at ancient cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. These are cities that were, I mean, at that time it would have been at its peak.
Right.
And we try to incorporate those kind of ideologies and thinking into the design that we are doing today.
Yeah. And also, I think the Western world is honestly more accepting of what we do more than us accepting of what we are doing.
Yes.
Today, I feel like the world is coming towards us,
Yeah.
but we see a lot of people, like let's say you, who not necessarily lives here in
Yes.
India, a lot more welcoming, to our day-to-day cultures, like, stuff like drawing a rangoli, listening to Carnatic
100%.
music is not seen as a cool thing here, for let's say kids who are in their teens now. But I think somebody like you, how do you think you can contribute in making, let's say in this instance, since you're a Carnatic musician, trying to bring in that modernness into something that is so ancient? How is it that you can make the younger crowd more accepting of our own traditions?
Yeah.
I know you do it on a
Yes,
daily
yes,
basis,
yes.
but I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
out how.
So, like what you're saying, and what I gather is that we have the country is growing, and the ideas and everything is growing, but the local people don't understand the potential that they have. And this is a human thing, and it's through any country. If you go to any country, each country has something unique and different that they're doing, and they will never appreciate themselves for having done that. And that is because human beings uh, want to look outwards for the answers. The journey is never to go out and try and find something new
But
outside.
isn't that something that happens as you get older? As you
100%.
age,
Yes, yes.
you really come back to your roots
You come-
again.
yes.
You look within
100%.
yourself. Yes.
And when you look within yourself, you start seeing similarities of what you experience within you in other communities. You see it in other spaces, other places. And that is where you get inspired by the traditions or the ways of how people explore architecture. And this is how the collaboration works. So I do feel like it's an internal journey.
Yes.
And even if you go around the world, you still have to come back
Back
home.
to where it all started.
Yeah.
Yes. One last question.
Yes.
Your take on Mahakumbh Mela 2025. How is it?
Oh, wow.
So we'll end on a high note.
Yes. Oh, it was high energy. I've never been in a place where there's so many people doing one thing, praying for liberation and peace. It was just an amazing experience. And to be invited as a representative of South Africa and to perform with 11 other countries, I think was really a gift of a lifetime.
Well, we hope to see more of you
Yes,
and
thank you.
more of you on campus, more of you off campus. But it was
you.
lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you again, Mr. Govender.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Pleasure's all mine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is Khushi Rai signing off for today's podcast. Thank you for watching us, and look out for more videos on REVA University YouTube channel, and we'll see you again.